the operators of this.
Today can be the turning point in your life by making a simple decision.
Fundamental questions of navigation. Where am I? Where am I going? And how do I get there from here?
I invite the leaders of our planet to ask themselves these three questions before they make any crucial decisions.
But if you don't make decisions, you're going to stay right where you are.
We are all map makers.
We are in a time of transition.
If we're going to change, we have to change the direction that we're going.
Our planet needs leaders who know where they want to go.
When we change the direction we're going, then we want to make sure we're going in the right direction.
Leaders who can see the big picture.
Because if we're not, we're going to either go backwards or we're going to stay where we are.
Recognizing the psychological and the spiritual shifts and changes that need to be made, often from the inside to the outside.
To be able to shape your future, you have to be willing and able to change your paradigm.
Complex journeys require navigation. The path to the truth is one such journey. This is your GPS. Hairstyling services provided by J.D. Edwards Salon and Spa, Palmdale Shopping Plaza, Madera Street. Accessories provided by Chevette Williamson Jewelry. Standout jewelry for standout women. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. I'm your host, Michelle Malcolm. As always, it's a pleasure to be in your company today. So on today's show, we're not talking about what I promised you yesterday we're going to be talking about, because I had to make a change late last evening when I was advised that the guest that I had originally planned to have on the show today had something come up that he could not make it anymore. And I was sitting there thinking after 9 p.m., okay, this is a problem. What am I going to do? And then I get a call from this gentleman. Make sure his mic is muted. The Honorable E.J. Saunders, who is the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Investment, and Trade for the Turks and Caicos Islands. And he says, "Hey, cuz, I'm in town." I say, "Boy, right in time, because I need you on my show tomorrow." And so, always a ram in the thicket. My ram in the thicket today is the one and only E.J. Saunders, again, the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade, doing a phenomenal job in that position in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I think it may have something to do that we share blood. But anyway, that's not a show. EJ, welcome. Welcome to GPS.
Thank you, Michelle. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
All right. So how's it been going since the election? Your party won resoundingly. And you were named as a young deputy of your party, and now deputy premier, and holding a very, very important portfolio in that of finance, investment, and trade. How's it been going?
It's been going pretty well. But I mean, first of all, before I get into that, I noticed that your commercial had said hairstyling by J.D. Edwards. I'm just wondering if while I'm here, I can get a free cut from you, or even if I pay for it.
Well, I'll see what I can do. You special to me, so I can see if I can work that out.
But certainly, yeah, it's been going well, Michelle. I mean, we won the government.
We just lost you all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, I think the video dropped out, but I'm going to see if it comes back up.
Yeah, let's see if we can get you back up.
But while I'm doing that, yeah, we got elected last February 20th, 2021.
Uh-huh.
So we've been in government a little bit more than a year right now.
Okay.
And it's certainly been it went by very fast. It was a bit of a steep learning curve. We've had non-stop working. We're having cabinets every week. We were having House of Assembly meetings at least every 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had cabinet yesterday, and I think when I announced it was the 40th cabinet. 40 cabinets within the past year, a little bit more than a year.
Wow.
And we've certainly had maybe about 25. I have to remember at least 25 House of Assembly meetings. So we've been meeting quite a bit to move the country forward.
And move the country forward. You have been doing.
We-
Now you started off as, but our topic for the record, we're talking today about the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. That is the official title of today's show. But I just want to sort of lay the groundwork first before we dive into that. And you will learn as we have this conversation why EJ is well qualified to discuss the future of money, and now that he is a politician and its impact on Caribbean leadership. So you started initially as the interim Minister of Health.
Yes.
And then transitioned to finance.
To finance, yes.
Yeah. So now, how, I know you can't go into much details, but just, sort of give us a sort of overview of how you've been able to move the country forward from a financial perspective.
Well, I mean, I'd like to think it was a team effort, but we've done very well without going through the highlights, because we have on Monday, I'm actually laying the budget estimates, and then we're going to debate it on the 3rd.
Right.
Between the 3rd and the 5th, we're going to debate it. So I don't want to give away the highlights.
Obviously. Yeah.
But we, when we came into power last February, we were the budget had not been passed as yet. And we passed the budget in June, which is well late, because our financial year, just like in the Bahamas, I think it's like the Bahamas, because our financial year starts 1st of April. I'm not sure if the Bahamas is on that. They may be on a calendar year.
Okay.
But our financial year starts.
July is first.
Okay, so our financial year starts during the 1st of April.
Okay.
And we passed the budget last year in June. And at that point in time, we were expecting a deficit budget, which means that we're expecting to spend more than we take in.
Right. We're very familiar with that.
And we, I became Minister of Finance in August, and in October, we did a supplementary budget. And at that time, we had already reversed the deficit, and we were projecting that we were going to come in at 16 million surplus. And I can say that we've done phenomenally well. We've got tens of millions of dollars above budget. And during that time, we were able to do 2 stimulus. We gave out one as soon as we came into government last year, March, of $1,000. We just did one in February of $500. And we've given out, at least in my ministry, because we're in charge, under my ministry is what they call the MSME grant program that falls under one of my statutory boards. And we help out small businesses. So we've given out hundreds of thousands of dollars to small businesses.
Okay.
And we think we're doing well. I mean, the biggest problem we're having, I think a lot of countries like ours are having, is that how do you, the country may be doing well phenomenally, but it's the masses, it's the population that may not be benefiting from the how well the country is doing. And so you need to get that the success of the country trickle down to the people, the populace.
Right.
And I think like most countries, we struggle at that. And so all of our policies are going to be now trying to get the country success moving down to the populace. One of the terms that I like to use, and I think a lot of people have adopted, is living your best life. And that's what we're trying to do.
But the first step, obviously, is to get the country in a position where it can begin to trickle down. Because if you're in a deficit at the top, then there is no possibility of prosperity trickling down, because you yourself at the top are in a deficit. So I think the first step is what you guys have done, which is to, I mean, if the Bahamas would ever be able to say that we are no longer operating in a deficit, I think they'd throw a huge Junkanoo parade just to celebrate that, because we are so familiar to operating in a terribly, terribly deep deficit. Now, the question is this. How was your background? And perhaps you should tell us a little bit about your background in terms of finance. How was your background and your willingness to embrace new methodologies and new technologies as it relates to money? How impactful was that in the success that you've enjoyed so far?
I think I'm back on.
You are.
So I just want to make sure.
You are.
Yeah. I spent a number of years as the CEO for Digicel Turks and Caicos, almost 10 years. So I'd spent a lot of time in the boardroom. My background is not accounting; it's tech, but it's actually software engineering and computer programming. As you know, I was here in 2016, 2017, part of the Alive team also. So I've spent many years with big companies dealing with borrowing large sums of money, investing large sums of money. And so when I came to government was a bit of a change. But it certainly allowed me to understand fiscal prudence. There are times, and I have to sometimes debate with the public now because they were wondering, why can't you give a stimulus every quarter if the country is doing so well? And just to put in perspective how well the country is doing, we have, at last time I checked, we had around about $500,000 worth of debt. $500,000, that's $500,000 worth of debt the country has. And we collectively, between the government and between some of our statutory boards, we have more than $200 million in cash. So imagine now we have $200 million in cash, $500,000 of debt, and we're doing very, very well in terms of revenue. And so people think that we can just give away money,
Right.
and so and we can't, because the reason why we're in such a strong position is that we have to put money away for a rainy day.
Absolutely.
We may be in the 7 years of plenty right now, but we have to look at that. There will be 7 years of famine, using the biblical analogy. And so what my experience have been is that it lets me know that good times aren't here to stay, just like bad times aren't here to stay, and that you have to be fiscally prudent. So we can do some creative things that we can come on and brag about, but we also have to ensure that we still have to be putting away some for the future, for a rainy day. And so I would say that that's where my experience allowed me to do that. That not because we have a hot brand and a lot of people want to invest and the economy is growing, that we have to position the economy also for future growth, but while we're doing well to strengthen our, in the private sector, we'd be saying strengthen our balance sheet, but certainly strengthen our cash reserves. So in time, if there's another outbreak or any left drop in the economy or a hurricane or something that causes a disruption in the normal flow of our economy, that the government can absorb the shocks without having to go to that and borrow money.
Now, for the record, the Turks and Caicos did not drop off the face of the earth during the last 2 years with COVID-19. So they were not exempt from, because, oftentimes we hear governments, and I ain't calling no name, but governments like to use the pandemic as an excuse as to why they are not performing well. Well, nobody's faced a pandemic like this in our lifetime, and nobody's faced this in our lifetime. And so this is an excuse for us not to be making better decisions. But you guys faced the pandemic as well. What were some of the decisions that you made that caused the Turks and Caicos to fare well, not just going through the pandemic, but now on the other side of it, because we are coming out of this pandemic, where you are in a position of being in the black instead of the red? How did you maneuver through COVID and knowing that you're going to have to operate on the other side of this, so without destroying your economy, et cetera? What were some of the things you did?
I think, to be fair to countries like that, and I know I'm in the Bahamas and I know the issue that is here, but I think to be fair to all the countries, timing has to do a lot of it also. And what I mean by that is that we are having issues with our airport, as an example, and we know that we need a big airport and a much bigger airport, and so we're going to make an investment into a brand new airport. And we're going to invest probably about $300 to $400 million. If the pandemic had happened after we had built that airport, we would have been carrying significant debt, and it might have been limiting what we can do. We know we need the airport. We know we need to spend the money. We know we need to do it on infrastructure. In 2012, when the British restored our constitution, they made sure put in very tight fiscal policies to ensure that we save. And limit the way with which you could spend. And so that discipline allowed us to build up our cash reserves. And just before we were about to go on an infrastructure spending, the pandemic happened. So it happened at a time when we were doing well. We had huge cash reserves. We hadn't spent any money on any infrastructure upgrades. And so by that time, we had more than $100 million in cash. And by the time we finished spending to spend our way out of the pandemic, we were down to just below 100 million. We had an $80 million credit line that we never tapped into. But for those other countries, the countries might be carrying debt because they would have gone into infrastructure spending, and they would have found themselves in a position where the pandemic happened and they didn't have easy access to borrowing. And I think that's the issue where a lot of countries find themselves in. That people, and I have an argument with someone that's funny about it. Our treasurer of the political party, me and him and I have debates all the time because he keeps saying, oh, you're not doing anything because you're not borrowing any money. You're not taking on debt. And some people believe that you must carry debt. But that's not the debt is not the thing you want to have when you have a pandemic, because what it does is that it dries up your cost of borrowing. So that when you have to go back to your creditors and say, I want to borrow another $500 million or whatever, and you're already carrying $2-3 billion in debt, it drives up your cost of borrowing. The Turks and Caicos happened to be in a good space because we had more than $100 million in cash, and we had paid down a $200 million debt from 2012. Between 2012 and 2016, we were doing very, very well in terms of our debt repayment. And so by the time we got into a pandemic, we had single-digit million debt, and we were paying it down pretty well. So we were able to secure $80 million credit line with basically no effort, even though we didn't draw into it. So our good fortune is partly the fact that we just happened to be timing. The pandemic happened when we were very fiscally prudent, and we had already put away a significant amount of cash reserves. But for other countries, I feel for them. I mean, there's no easy way out of it, particularly if you're already carrying debt, and particularly if that debt was used for infrastructure spending.
All right. So we're calling the show today, once again, The Future of Money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. Because one of the things that I think you would agree with is that our leaders can no longer rely on the same vehicles of the past that would have gotten us to a particular place in our history. The world has changed so much and is continuing to change so much, including the way we approach money, the way money is, what is defined as money even has changed. And so how important is it for Caribbean leaders to be willing to change alongside with the global changes and not be so stuck in the old way of doing things that you and your entire country are left behind because you're afraid to change?
The thing about it is that the Caribbean leaders certainly have to adapt, because in the Bahamas, as an example, you have a number of Canadian banks. I don't know if you have any American banks, but you certainly have a number of Canadian banks. And the Turks and Caicos, we only have Canadian banks. We have no other banks. And the Canadian banks are risk adverse, and in addition to that, they are going through a period of de-risking. And I do believe that, well, it's certainly my personal belief that even a number of them don't even want to be in the Caribbean anymore, and that it's just a matter of time before they completely pull out of the Caribbean. And so a number of things are coming together. De-risking on their part, which means that there's certain clientele that they don't want. The de-risking from the point of view, from a lending point of view, not just in terms of KYC and AML point of view, but from a lending point of view, they're not lending the way they were before. Most times they only lend when it comes in terms of mortgages, car loans, and those sorts of things. They make it very difficult to lend for around capital for businesses. And so our local owned businesses struggle to borrow, to be able to, particularly to expand. Most times they're borrowing just to cover cash flow. But if you want to scale up, you would only a very small percentages of our locally owned businesses to the Caribbean, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos particularly, are able to go to the bank and borrow for scaling up. And so what we need to do is that we need to find innovative ways of bringing capital to our markets, capital that we can then tap into very cheaply. I remember my financial controller when I was at Digicel, just give an example. My financial controller, I'm the CEO, he's the financial controller, he's from Ireland, and he bought a villa in the Turks and Caicos, and he was paying 1% above prime in terms of the mortgage. He borrowed the money in Ireland and bought a villa in the Turks and Caicos. I would have been spending about 2 to 3% if I was borrowing higher than him,
right,
in the same market. And I was the CEO of the company. And I'm saying, but the reason why I'm the CEO of the company is meaning that my salary was obviously better than his, but he was able to tap into cheap capital. Now imagine if you're a business and needing capital. And so we, as leaders, we need to position our countries to be able to support our local businesses and our local communities, by particularly the entrepreneurs, by being able to get access to cheap capital. That's going to happen now with the new ways in which money is being done through cryptocurrencies, through electronic lending platforms, through branchless banks, and those being able to set up. So now you'd be able to have a bank in the Bahamas that not physically in the Bahamas, but you could still borrow and do banking transactions and everything with it. Things that were unheard of 15 years ago. And so we want to bring cheap capital into our markets. We have to look at ways and making it frictionless, meaning that moving out all of the barriers that add cost to it, and then allowing new innovative lenders to come into the country, our countries, with less burdensome regulation. And those persons will then start to lend money into the community. And then our entrepreneurs and our population will then be able to borrow and get access to capital at an affordable rate. So you're not spending and paying interest for years and years and years, and you'd be able to pay off these loans very quickly.
Why do you think that there is such resistance to that? What you just described sounds so foreign for so many Caribbean countries, because regulation is like they don't think that they will survive without having heavy regulation on everything that you try to do, when the rest of the world is moving away from that in many ways, as you just described. Why do you think there's such resistance?
I don't think the resistance comes from Caribbean leaders. I think the resistance comes from the big countries and Europe and North America, through something called the Financial Action Task Force, the FATA, and down through to the CFATA, which is the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. And then it gets pushed onto our regulators, our local regulators.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, here's what happens. I mean, the United States, as an example, says we don't want capital that was raised, capital that was generated in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
leaving the United States with people not paying taxes on it. So Apple is an example. Apple as an entity has hundreds of billions of dollars offshore out of the United States, because they don't want to have to bring it onshore and have to pay taxes on it, capital gains taxes, that is. And so countries like the United States say, wait a minute, we don't want our citizens or our U.S. entities to be moving money and investing money offshore that they should be paying taxes on.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe that people are doing it. And we believe that's left to them, they're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have the Financial Action Task Force that basically says it's around anti-money laundering. But the truth of it is it's really around tax evasion. They don't want people paying, people who should be paying taxes in their jurisdiction, moving that money.
Right.
And so that's why we have people like the European Union and those talk about harmful tax practices and stuff like that.
Somebody actually sent me a video, not to cut you off. Somebody actually sent me a video talking about how the EU is really the bully on the playground.
So yes, it's really them.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones who are basically saying we want these regulations in place to ensure that we know who's putting money offshore, who's putting money in these sorts of locations. So it makes it very, very, very difficult. And so the local banks are now basically told that if you accept money from persons that are questionable, that you're going to get into trouble. So everything gets caught up in it. So the message that they're sending is basically saying any money that's questionable, that can be used for money laundering, for that come in a way that's criminal, or can be used for criminal, it can be used for terrorist financing. And again, I'm using money laundering to say that in any way you could be using money that we don't know about, that you can get fined, and we will come down on you with a heavy hand. And so the banks just say, you know what, we're not going to be fined, $1 billion for an account that's bringing in a couple of $1 million a year.
Right.
And so you may be a big business in the Bahamas, the tens of millions of dollars in revenue, but for them the fines just isn't worth it. So they say, you know what, we might as well just pull out of the jurisdiction. So it's because of what the Europe and North America called harmful tax practices by their entities and their citizens, why we're under this heavy regime around financial regulations.
But even central banks, though, explain to me how that works in terms of central bank, like for instance, the Central Bank of the Bahamas still has there's still a lot of debate. I'm a part of several chat groups, and there's this back and forth debate about decentralization and almost the central bank wanting to hold on to its ability to what's the word I'm looking for? Its ability to, like, they want to hold on to the regulations that make it very difficult for certain types of businesses to thrive. You're talking about cryptocurrency, which by definition, it does away with much of the red tape and makes it easier for free flowing business. But the central bank seems to be dead set on trying to put the reins on that. So how does the whole thing that you just described in terms of the EU and what they do to protect their own interests, how does that impact decisions that are made by central banks of nations like the Bahamas?
I can't speak definitively for it, but I do believe that the central banks are probably being pushed by the CFAT, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, and again, and by the EU and other countries. And the reason why I'm saying so, I don't think the central bank are the bad guys in the room. I think they're being very, very prudent because they don't want their jurisdictions to get gray or blacklisted. And in December of last year, after Christmas, but before New Year's, I got an emergency email from someone in my department, basically saying that the EU wanted commitment letters from us, from the Turks and Caicos, but they were doing it. It was around the time when they needed it from a number of jurisdictions, basically saying that we will comply with their requirements. And they have a number of requirements that would tighten up the ability for persons to invest money into the country or to do something that you would think the central bank should be doing in order to encourage new ways of spending. They were basically saying, no, we don't want that. We want something different. Now they're in this particular case, it was around more beneficial ownership, but this is how these things happen. They decided, hey, wait a minute, if there's a platform that allow our citizens to still invest outside of our countries and move money outside of our country without paying taxes on it. And those platforms, let's just say one of those platforms may be cryptocurrency. So we can't see how the money is being moved. So if our citizens are moving it, so they may come and say, we don't like crypto platforms. And we want the government that if someone wants to sell and engage in crypto trading and spending money through cryptocurrency, we want the government to get the same type of KYC requirements, documents from them that they would get if they were opening up a regular bank account. Now, that seems counterproductive because people will be saying, but wait a minute, it allows decentralization. Why would you put in the same rules of it? And then they may go and say, well, the central bank is asking for this. And the central bank is being difficult. The central bank might have been taking the instructions from a much higher body. Like I said, in the case of in December, we were getting our instructions from the European Union that's saying, we want you to do this and we want you to commit to doing it. And otherwise we're going to blacklist you. And so I had to prepare a cabinet paper, even though I was the Minister of Finance, take the paper to cabinet. And this is again between Christmas and New Year's, and get cabinet to approve it, where I can then write a letter saying that the Turks and Caicos will commit to and then comply. And then they just came out about a month ago saying, okay, because you complied with the letter, we're not going to blacklist you, but we're going to assess you again in October. And if you don't comply by October, you may get blacklisted. And so all of those threats, if those threats were coming down on your central bank, it would be nothing that they could do. Otherwise, if they didn't comply, you would end up, the Bahamas would end up on a blacklist. So what may seem that them being difficult, maybe them just trying to ensure that the country doesn't get wrecked by a bigger entity. And then all of a sudden that leads to other issues.
I'm going to see if I can find that clip of the news report that the person sent me with regard to the EU in particular, the bullies on the playground, because the thing is they continue to move the yardstick. They continue to change the game, change the rules of the game. So you just described it really well. So will they ever be satisfied with what they are requiring governments to do? Or is this just a game? I'm going to see if I can find that clip, and we're going to talk about it. But we have to take a quick break. So let's take this break, and then we come back. We're going to continue the conversation with the Honorable E.J. Saunders, who is the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade in the Turks and Caicos Islands. We're talking the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. We will have more after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rim fix and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, all-terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. All right, welcome back to GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company along with my guest today. And that is the person of E.J. Saunders, who is the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade for the Turks and Caicos Islands. Today on the show, we're talking about the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leaders. Now, I did find the clip I was talking about. It's longer than I anticipated. It's like 6.5 minutes long. So I am kind of nervous about playing this because I haven't had a chance to sort of cut it down. But the information is really very impactful. So let's give it a play. And this is going to explain to you in more detail what we've been talking about for the first portion of the show as it relates to the outside influences of entities like the European Union.
With a population of about 446 million, the 27-member European Union, or EU, is the largest and most powerful trade bloc in the world. The euro is the world's second most important currency, supporting the EU's position as the world's largest exporter of manufactured goods and services. And because it can, apparently, the EU has appointed itself God, specifically the god of taxes, the god of anti-money laundering, and the god of combating the financing of terrorism. Going forward, I'll refer to these matters collectively as compliance. So the EU has appointed itself the god of compliance, just like that. And to demonstrate its unholy authority, the EU publishes a blacklist and a list of high-risk countries, of those condemned to hell because of our supposed non-compliance. So how exactly does the EU go about compiling these lists? Well, in the first place, the EU makes up its own rules. You see, money laundering and terrorism financing are specific crimes which carry standard legal definitions. But the EU has conveniently chosen to include non-legal criteria, such as whether a country has an offshore financial center, whether or not a country has strong economic ties with the EU, and whether you are classified as a least developed country by the United Nations. Secondly, the EU then applies its already unorthodox rules on compliance only to certain countries. These rules do not apply to EU countries, so they will never appear on these blacklists. But did you know that a 2019 Dutch study found that 13 billion euros are laundered through the Netherlands each year? And the European Parliament found that Ireland and Hungary display tax haven characteristics. But you won't find these or any other EU country on any EU blacklist. The EU also spares its powerful allies. The recent FinCEN leak revealed that British entities were largely responsible for laundering some $2 trillion US, mostly out of Russia. And the EU's powerful allies, which have been accused of financing terrorism, such as Saudi Arabia and China, well, guess what? They all get a pass. So the EU appoints itself God, installs a convenient filter at the pearly gates, grants itself and its friends eternal salvation, and then weaponizes this filter by condemning to hell whoever it wants by blacklisting us. The EU's blacklist and list of high-risk countries combined consists of Afghanistan, American Samoa, the Bahamas, Barbados, Botswana, Cambodia, Fiji, Ghana, Guam, Iran, Iraq, Jamaica, Mauritius, Mongolia, Myanmar, Nicaragua, North Korea, Pakistan, Palau, Panama, Samoa, Seychelles, Syria, Trinidad and Tobago, Uganda, the US Virgin Islands, Vanuatu, Yemen, and Zimbabwe. Do you notice anything about these countries? Apart from being relatively small and vulnerable, every one of these countries was once colonized by Europeans. And furthermore, not one single country currently on these EU lists is predominantly white. When I dare to call out the EU's behavior as institutionalized discrimination and economic warfare, the Europhiles among us suggest that perhaps the reason every single country on these lists is a relatively weak, non-white former European colony is either A, pure coincidence, or B, that we are in fact the world's most criminal, corrupt, money laundering, tax shielding, shady people who deserve to be named, shamed, and condemned by the gods themselves. But the evidence is clear. Whether by design or inadvertently, the EU as an institution has adopted a discriminatory stance against some of the world's smallest and most disadvantaged countries. Our total share of global economic activity is less than 5% combined. The EU's blacklisting is a stunningly effective smear campaign, inflicting sufficient reputational damage to make it virtually impossible for us to compete economically. This is not a level playing field, and it never has been. How in the 21st century could a featherweight be asked to step into the ring with a giant in a no-holds-barred, bare-knuckles fight to the death? If the EU is not held to account now for its bullying, the economic warfare and institutionalized discrimination will continue to thrive globally. The time has come, and this has to stop now. I call on the United Nations to intervene on behalf of all of its blacklisted members and denounce the EU's actions now, because there is simply no other recourse available to us. And in closing, I call on the EU to finally do the right thing, to cease its long-standing bullying, discrimination, and economic warfare, targeting weaker, non-white former colonies. Now that the evidence is clear, anything less should be seen as defiantly discriminatory and totally unacceptable.
So on that, EJ.
As the minister, I have to be careful.
Obviously, I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything.
Be very, very careful. And I wouldn't want to get a letter from the EU
Absolutely
saying
not.
that we've got recordings of you.
Absolutely.
But it's certainly the policies of the EU and other entities like that drives the Financial Action Task Force, and because of their policies is where they create their regulations from, and it gets pushed down. And so it's clearly in our case, and when I say our case, I mean all of us in the region. We have to play by their rules, and otherwise you're going to be punished for it. So it's so I'm getting back to the original question you said about the central bank. I think that's what the central bank has to follow the rules, or otherwise the rules of CFATA, which follows the regulations brought down by the Financial Action Task Force that takes its marching orders from the EU, the North America, the G8, or maybe the G20 at a minimum. And so so that's what happens. Like to go and speak out against, like I said, I'd have to choose my words wisely.
Absolutely.
Because I am Minister of Finance, and I don't want to send the wrong message.
Right.
But I'm saying that's where it comes from. And then if you don't comply, you're going to get into huge issues. And that's why she's making a plea. Because I mean, there's nothing that she can go out there and say we're going to change the United Nations based on a plea. I don't know if the United Nations has stepped in and say no, you're not allowed to do that. But certainly, that's what's driving it.
Interesting. So, considering what you just said, and for the record, EJ had no idea I was going to put that video on. I didn't know until a moment ago when I remembered somebody had sent it to me, and he had started talking about the role that blacklisting threats play, etc. So, to his credit, he was a bit blindsided.
Don't worry, I'm not going to get up and walk out of the chair. I'm not uncomfortable being next to Lydia's. I mean, she's not saying anything. She's not speaking out of turn.
Right.
And I'd certainly, as a Caribbean national, if I felt that that something was going to happen, I would defend her right to say that, to speak freely to.
Right.
What I'm just saying is that as a minister, I wouldn't want to send the wrong message.
Understood.
But she's not out of her place for speaking out against it.
So what can central banks and governments do who find ourselves constantly under this threat from, I'm going to say it, the bullies of the EU and others? How do we... Is it possible even to break free of that? Or do we just have to do what this scrawny kid does on the playground? Make sure you carry enough money so when the bully comes, you just pay them off and go on about your day. Just accept that as a fact of life.
I may be naive about this, but I think I've said it many times, that I think we're world class. And when I say world class, I sit in the Turks and Caicos, but just for the record, being born in the Bahamas, a significant portion of my family is from the Bahamas. I consider myself at least half and half. And so when I say we, in this case, I'm talking about all of us. I'm confident that we're world class, and I believe that it's time our governments take a seat at the table and start to be heard and negotiate at the table. Now, getting to the table is very difficult, but I think what we would have accepted years ago, the younger generation isn't accepting. So what politicians probably would have accepted 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and these sorts of negotiations, I don't think young politicians like myself, and certainly the next generation and the generation to come, will accept it. Because here's what's happening. We are now starting to go to schools go to world-class schools. So give an example, a lot of persons in the Turks and Caicos now are heading to the UK to go to school. And they're getting their degrees from the same institutions that the future European and future UK politicians are getting their degrees from. And so if I end up going to Oxford, and as an example, at Cambridge, and I'm sitting in the classroom getting my law degree next to someone who eventually becomes prime minister or MP in the UK, my expectation is that I'm going to be able to sit down with them and be able to negotiate with them, particularly if I'm in a class and I think that I'm doing better than them. So what's going to happen is that the people who are going to be running the EU, these persons are going to be our peers, and we're going to see ourselves as their peers. Because again, years ago, coming from children of slavery, we started looking at them as the Europeans as superior to us. But gradually that's starting to change. We're starting to see ourselves as more and more equal. I certainly see myself as equal. And the more you become more educated, the more worldly you become, the more equal you're going to see yourself. So it's just a matter of time. We're going to negotiate at the table. And I know people say, well, that's kind of naive, but one of the big problems with us in the Caribbean is singing out of the same hymn book, coming together. I mean, CARICOM has tried it, but we've done a pretty bad job at coming together as a group. You know, where they say they could beat me, but they can't beat me. We've done a very bad job of coalescing together and coming together and negotiating as a group. But we're going to figure it out. And once we figure it out, we're going to come as a block. And we're going to push back as a block. And then we're going to demand that we get a seat at the table. And I think when that starts to happen, you're going to start to see this tide turn. It doesn't mean that we're going to make a complete shift and go back to the old way, but we're going to certainly negotiate. And then when rules and regulations come down, it's going to be maybe not completely favorable, but it wouldn't be as bad. It will be a negotiated position that's accepted by both sides. And it wouldn't be a win for one and a loss for the other. And I think over time it will happen. And I'm certainly, I can see in my generation, persons like myself, who believe that I'm equal to any UK MP. Now, the UK Parliament speaks for the Turks and Caicos, really, and then they can enforce things on us as an odd and council. But I find it completely unacceptable. But I think that I'm equal to the persons who are sitting in the UK Parliament. And more as a region, we're going to start to demand that when we are speaking with North America, we're speaking to the EU, that we're speaking as partners and not just as regions that things are forced on.
What you're saying is so powerful, EJ, because if you look at when the details do come out about some of the things that have been negotiated on our behalf, you wonder who was doing the negotiating. It seems that they went into that negotiation room with a spirit of inferiority, where they just, I don't get it. Some of the things that are agreed to, it's like, who was doing the negotiation? And, you know, somebody rightfully said that you don't get what you deserve in life, you get what you can negotiate. And so if you go in from a perspective of, well, you know, we are at a disadvantage or we're less than, then you expect to not come out with the best deal possible. So I'm really encouraged to hear what you're saying.
I'm going to say this. I mean, I've never, man, I've been on your show a few times, and I've been on a number of shows in the Bahamas, but I've always been on shows relating to technology, but I've never spoken about politics.
Right.
But in the Turks and Caicos, I've said this, given the story a few times, but I'm going to say it here. When Barack Obama was running, when he was a senator and he was running, he had a huge following. A lot of the well-to-do Black Americans came around him and rallied around him and was supporting him. And Oprah Winfrey was on the show. And she was out there pushing his campaign and supporting him. And she had one of the first people who came out and endorsed him. So she was on stomping around with him. And someone said to her, they said, do you think Barack can pull this off? Because the expectation was that he probably would have come all the way and would have lost to Hillary Clinton, that he would not make it to the nominee for the Democratic Party. And so this is before he won the nomination, and very, very early in the primaries. And so they asked her, Oprah, if they thought that he could win, and she said, yes, I do. I think he can. And the other question was that why? Because persons like Jesse Jackson had come before him, so other Black presidential nominees had put themselves forward and never make it. And she said the reason why that Barack could win is because Jesse Jackson and those were born during the civil rights movement. And so
they
while they
mindset.
wanted the presidency, they could not see themselves in the presidency.
Right.
And so, but Barack, if he was born during, he certainly didn't grow up during civil rights. So he came during a time when he could see himself in the presidency. He could look himself in the mirror and say, why not me? And her belief was that, and I think that's what he was talking about in his book, about the art of the possible, is that you have to see yourself in this. When I walk into a room, I don't really care who's sitting on the other side of me, particularly negotiating, because I don't see myself as below them.
Right.
I remember in the Turks and Caicos many years ago as a child, when a new British governor arrived, persons would get into their Sunday best and go to the airport and be watching. And people would find it offensive if they didn't get an invitation to a party with that the governor was having at his residence. Today, and I'm the deputy premier of the Turks and Caicos, if I didn't get an invitation to a government event, I'd go like, so what? Just doesn't matter to me.
Right.
And so as we start to see ourselves more and more like that, and there are times even in cabinet where I would push back. And the governor sits in cabinet, he's the chair of cabinet, and there are times when he may say something that I would push back on. And for the record, him and I get along very well. But they do know that it's not immune to me to pushing back and saying, no, I'm not happy with this. And then I'm certainly not the only MP, government minister in cabinet that feels that way. And ministers who are particularly around my age are comfortable pushing back. And I think the same thing is going to happen with the region, and the same thing is going to happen with Bahamian leaders, that sooner or later we're going to start to push back and say, we're not comfortable with this is being pushed on to our regions, and this is what we're going to negotiate, and this is what we think are more acceptable solutions, and we're going to fight for that.
I hear you. I want to read a comment from one of my Facebook viewers. Hasheen says, is it possible for us to create our own table? Why do we need a seat at their table? How do you respond to that, EJ?
I think that yes and no. I think it's possible for us to do it. I think that's what CARICOM is trying to achieve. But I think the world is small and large at the same time. We're global and local, and we all have to play together. And so let's think of it as the world table instead of just thinking of it as the EU table. But we have to negotiate, and so you negotiate around something. And so metaphorically, I'm saying the table, but the idea is what I'm saying is that when we negotiate, we're not going to be negotiating it from a point of big taking from the small. I remember years ago when I was in Canada going to school, they were talking about NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. And I saw this caricature. Well, it wasn't a caricature, but it was a cartoon in the newspaper that had a big sumo wrestler and a small little baby. And the sumo wrestler had USA on it, and the baby was Canada. And the baby, in the first picture, the baby was holding some candies. And the sumo wrestler said to the baby, "What are you bringing?" And the baby said, "2 candies." And in the next picture, then the baby said to the sumo wrestler, "What are you bringing?" And in the next picture, the sumo wrestler hit the baby in the head, and the candies went up in the air, and the sumo wrestler caught it and said, "2 candies," basically saying, "I'm taking what you're bringing and making it my own."
Right. And then can sell it back to you.
Sell it back to you. And so that's the position that we're in now. We're in the baby position, and the big countries are basically saying, we're gonna dictate. But like I said, that's changing. And so to answer the question, yes, we can create our own table, but the idea is that we have to negotiate, and we have to negotiate from a position of strength. And I think we're getting stronger and stronger. And there will be a point of time when we start to say, no way, we find this completely unacceptable, and we're not going to accept it.
All right. So for those of you who are listening by radio or watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you'd like to join in on the conversation, if you have a question or comment, the telephone numbers to call are 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0271, or 326-0272, 326-0272, 326-0272. And our WhatsApp line to send a message is 824-9952, 824-9952. Now, we want you to like and share the show. Let everybody know the GPS is on the air. We're coming to you live from Global 99.5 FM. My guest today is the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Investment, and Trade of the Turks and Caicos Islands, E.J. Saunders. And today we are talking about the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. Really important conversation for us all. So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back on the other side, we will continue the conversation with the Honorable E.J. Saunders. And you're going to learn a lot more about the future of money as it relates to you at your level and why it's important for you to understand the direction that money is heading in. So we'll be back after these words from our sponsors. Stay with us. This is GPS.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 Hyperimmune Egg Powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for rims, paints, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, Fuel, Tracklight, Tough, Rough Racing, Velocity, Mud, All-Terrain, and low-profile tires. Cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Glasses love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. Welcome back. Okay, there we go. Welcome back to GPS Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm in your company, chatting with the Deputy Premier and Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade for the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Honorable E.J. Saunders. Our telephone numbers to call. We're talking, by the way, about the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. The telephone numbers to call if you have a question or a comment are 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0271, or 326-0272, 326-0272, 326-0272, and the WhatsApp number, not to call, but to send a message. It's 824-9952. Somebody just tried to call the WhatsApp line. Don't call people on the WhatsApp line because I'm not going to be able to plug you into the show. We only are taking messages on the WhatsApp line. The number again, 824-9952, 824-9952. So we've been hearing a lot of talk, EJ, about cryptocurrencies and that being the new money, the new form of currency that everybody's going to be using around the world. There's a huge conference that's going to be happening here in the Bahamas in the coming days, to the point where it's by invitation only. I reached out to the guys who are behind that to say, I'd love to have you on the show to talk about, cryptocurrency, and maybe you could use the opportunity to promote your event. He was like, Ms. Malcolm, we don't need to promote our event. It's by invitation only, and we're already at capacity. I was like, oh, excuse me. So sorry. So they have agreed to come on after the event. And I'm really looking forward to that conversation. However, a lot of people don't really understand this whole crypto world. It's amazing to me that some of the very intelligent people who are in, say, traditional banking are still thinking, oh, this is nothing more than a glitch or a fluke. How do you respond to those persons, CJ, as it relates to the future of money and crypto?
Well, let me just say that I was lucky enough to snag an invite.
You need nobody to carry your bag.
I have to thank the organizers for deeming me worthy enough to be able to get an invite. Crypto, I'm a bit of a mixed mind from crypto, because I look at crypto from the risk of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's the whole idea that, worst case scenario, we were getting, as technologists, getting bad at stopping it. But worst case scenario, all of a sudden you can have money that it completely evaporate. Like if it's in your pocket and I know it's my $10 in my wallet, it's not going to mysteriously disappear.
Mm-hmm.
But anything electronically, the whole idea that behind it is that it can mysteriously disappear. But the thing about it is that cash and coins and physical money, there's a certain amount of friction around moving it. So if I have cash here, $10 here, and you're in Miami and I want to give it to you, you're someone I want to send it to, like my child in school or whatever like that, there's a cost of doing that. So there's a cost of me going down to the bank. There's a cost of the bank teller taking it from me, or one of the money transfer agencies having to do it and manage that money all the way through to the person on the other end. Even when you go and you wire the money, there's a cost of doing that. And there's a bit of a time delay when it goes through all of its hurdles. So there's a friction when dealing with physical money. If you make money frictionless, which digital currency is doing, crypto really means that, crypto really speaks to the security around it, all the encryption and everything around it. But just think of it as digital money. When you digitize money, which cryptocurrency is, you now move a lot of the barriers and the friction out of getting it from point A to point B, mm-hmm. and being able to utilize it. So even if it's just not from person to person, even if it's just consumer to the seller, and you want to buy things with it, the whole idea of the managing and moving around of money, if you start to make it frictionless, or as frictionless as possible, you start to take out cost out of it. So you start to do things instantaneously. And so the idea of, remember years ago when you wanted to wire money abroad, it would take 3 days,
mm-hmm.
and to do it. Now today, depending on the time of day, you could do it. At best case scenario, you can get it in the afternoon. Now imagine being able to do that anywhere in the world instantaneously. Now you can possibly do that with a credit card or a debit card, but the fact is that there's a cost to doing that with that. So there's a cost of of doing. So the minimum, there's a cost of 3%, 4% to utilize the credit card, and then getting the credit card, and some of them have fees and the banking and everything. So imagine now being able to reduce those fees almost to zero. That's with the whole digital money, in this case, cryptocurrency, allow you to do. It allows you to remove the friction, allow you to do things with money instantaneously, and it reduces the cost. And there's a way more humanitarian benefit to that, just not persons like well-to-do middle class being able to do things instantaneously at a cheaper rate. The humanitarian part of it is that it allows you to bank the unbanked. And there's a huge amount of persons, there's at least 1 billion persons who are either unbanked or underbanked around the planet, who need to be able to get into the banking system to make their lives easier. And these are persons who are at the lower income level or at the poverty level, who by banking them, it makes their life easier. So farmers in rural areas can now sell their goods and get paid for it. And so a lot of persons at that level. So the idea around digital money, again, in this case, cryptocurrency and those, it allows you to solve a huge humanitarian problem of being able to bring the unbanked and underbanked into the banking system. But like I said, even for those of us who are not there, who are already banked, it removes a huge amount of friction from it and allows us to engage in commerce cheaply and faster.
How will this push towards cryptocurrencies impact the way business is done from the governmental level in the Caribbean?
It's going to disrupt the way business is done. I mean, like I said, I have some concerns about it, and my concerns around the globalization of crime. And I think that makes it a little bit easier, but I think the benefits far outweigh my concerns. But I think the governments, one of the things that governments do well is they control things through policies. They have oversight, they have the regulators, and and crypto basically removes the ability for government to control and have that. And that's why they call it decentralized, because the centralized system is usually government run. And because it's now decentralized, you don't need a man in the middle. And so when governments start to lose control over it, and so particularly in terms of monetary policies and everything, where governments will have to be forced to adopt. But that's what it'll allow. It'll take control away from government. Like right now, government is an example. If government wants to raise fees, one of the things they could say is, let's raise fees on financial services. And as you know, you go to the ATM machine, you pay a percent of VAT. In this case, you go and you want to wire money out of the over the counter at the bank, or you want to wire money electronically, you still have to pay the bank a fee on it. Now with and the government can control that. I mean, even the financial institutions will charge the fee, but the government can tax on top of that and control it that way. With decentralization, it takes the control away from the government and then limits their ability to be able to control it through taxes and regulatory policies. And I think we've lost that battle already with digital currency. I think it's here to stay. It's only going to grow. And like I said, there's huge benefits to doing it. So the governments will have to adopt because they'll have less control over it. And if they don't adopt, it will start to rerun around them. And then you'll have no control over it.
Well, I think the bottom line when it comes to hesitancy is around this particular aspect of what we're discussing is loss of control. I want to read some comments from one of my Facebook viewers. Jay says, the main benefit of crypto is the decentralization. It cannot be controlled by a small group of people. All fiat currencies are controlled by central banks and can be manipulated for selfish purposes. The US dollar is about to suffer hyperinflation. Crypto a hedge against that. What are your thoughts on those comments?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hello, Jay. Jay Scott Sadler. I was surprised to see when Jay popped up. Well, he said a number of things in terms of hyperinflation and everything. So I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I mean, the major issue is centralization, and it can't be managed. It can't be managed by a small set of people. He means the government. And so he is right when it comes from that point of view. And then so the decentralization of it is the main benefit of it. And like I said, but I look at it from the decentralization of it removes the cost and friction of dealing with money. Mm-hmm. And so that's what digital currency brings. It allows you to not have to go through a centralized spigot and funnel in order to get the money through. And when I say the funnel, being particularly in this case, you've got your central bank controlling everything. So you can't just go out there and say, I want to move $1 million if you can afford it from the Bahamas to to the United States without having the central bank say yay or nay to it. And so you have some countries that limit the amount of money that you can move around. And so that's the few controlling money in that case that he's talking about, a small number of persons. And decentralized currency allows you to say, well, if I want to move $1 million, if I can afford it, or if I want to move 10 million, I can move it. And so that's like I said, the benefit of it. But you have to caution it because all of the benign reasons and the good reasons, you can say, yes, that's the reason why we want to do that. But it does come with some risk. And like I said, it allows for the globalization of crime. And so we have to make sure that we do manage the risk.
Jay is congratulating you on your statements, on your response. He says, well said, Honorable Saunders. Again, the telephone numbers to call if you're interested in asking a question or making a comment, 326-0271, 326-0271, 326-0271, or 326-0272. 326-0272, 326-0272, and the WhatsApp number, not to call, because somebody has still been trying to call the number, but to send a message is 824-9952. 824-9952 is the number to send us a message. So you got to call us on the phone lines if you'd like to ask a question. So as far as, let's bring you back in, as far as the individual is concerned, how does the ordinary person prepare themselves for where the world is heading as it relates to the future of money?
I would say something that Jay will probably be happy with. I would say get familiar with it.
Get what?
Get familiar with it. You know, which is, I'm going to give you an analogy. I am huge in tech. I got into tech before social media. And so I'm not big on social media. I'm not on everything. And so by the time all of my friends are on Instagram, I don't have an Instagram account. I don't use it. And so they try to talk me through all the features of it, even though I'm a tech person. And so me just getting into Instagram now, I'm going to be feeling my way around it and stumbling for a bit. And so you don't want to find yourself like that. When cryptocurrency taken off, you don't want to have to be the one looking over the shoulders. How do I do this? And so I would say, while it's still, you get familiar with it. You know, download one of the apps where you can get the cryptocurrency. A lot of people like to trade in it because they certainly it's growing. But get into using it. Buy some Bitcoins. Start to get familiar with it. And I should say buy Bitcoins if you can afford it. But certainly get on the cryptocurrency bandwidth, start playing with it, you know, put a couple of dollars on and get familiar with it. So when it starts to take off, you would be a native and not as a foreigner to it when the world starts moving more towards digital money rather than less.
There are so many different cryptocurrencies out there, though. How do you know what is trustworthy and what's not for the newcomer?
I would say, start small. I'm not as much into it as someone like Jay is. Jay certainly loves it. And so I'm not going to go as far as start making recommendations and say, try this. If everyone out there would probably, some of your listeners may know about it more than I do, to say the better ones, and they can make better recommendations. But if I was getting into it, I would start to try it, research it, see what the people are saying. I mean, the internet as a collective voice, you can't get better than that. You'll start to hear feedback from persons and reviews of all of them. And then certainly read the reviews and see what people are saying. Go with the ones that seem to be more reputable and try it out. I would say start small with a couple of the smallest that you can start with, whether it's $50 or $100 or whatever. Start small, start playing with it and see how it works for you.
The thing is, you have so many mainstream businesses or service providers who are still very hesitant to use cryptocurrency as a form of or method of payment. I know in places across, for instance, Europe, you can walk into a store and purchase goods using crypto as opposed to fiat. But it seems, is that a call for the show? Yeah, it seems that there's some hesitation on this side of the world, or at least here in the Bahamas and maybe the Caribbean, as it relates to moving to the place where people can walk into the food store or walk into a store downtown and pay with crypto instead. And we're going to talk about why that is. But first, let's go to the phone lines. Caller, welcome to GBS.
Yes. Good afternoon. Happy Easter to one and all. This is Berenice Johnson, the original, and I must first give thanks to the Almighty God through Jesus Christ of Nazareth, enveloping us in the Holy Spirit, and my mortal boss, former Prime Minister Hubert Alexander Ingram. Good afternoon to Mr. the Honorable Deputy Premier. You said he's E.J. Saunders?
Yes, it's E.J. Saunders.
Oh,
yes,
good afternoon to you, sir.
Yes.
I am happy that you have invited him on the air, reference to the digital currency discussion. One of the reasons why I always defend my mortal boss, I call him on instructions from the Almighty God, is because the United States of America, along with the Eurasia Bloc, has had watch on this nation from 1984, especially the three geographical locations of Turks Island, Long Island, and Cat Island. And they had alluded that the first nation to produce any form of cryptocurrency would be deemed the most corrupt as a tax haven. And therefore, when I always shared on another show, it used to be with Adriana Lockhart on ZNS, I shared with them that the United States of America currency is the most divine currency, and it's a universal currency that is needed and used throughout the entire earth, wherever there are money exchanges. And one of the reasons now that we must come together, because what is necessary now is brutal honesty. Because I think when Mr. Ingram came to office, I think Premier Mike Missick, Charles is now the Premier. Mike Missick was in a photo with a former minister of Mr. Ingram's cabinet in Cat Island. And he has not yet been appraised of certain investigations from the Reagan Financial Institutional Investigations. And that is necessary because anytime, it doesn't matter how long, there are taxes or tax evaders, as you might know, they will be in pursuit. And this is one why I keep telling them from 1912, the financial report that was requested by, I call him God's anointed and appointed 45th President, Donald John Trump, was not of his own. This goes back to the federal government, and on many stations, I told them to please partner with the United States of America's federal government, because that's who control all of the presidents. It does not matter, and their justice, it works, because they do not rest on their laurels when anybody is a citizen or has become a citizen, try to evade their taxes and their responsibilities. They will hunt them down even after death and place their estate.
Berenice, do you have a question for our guest?
No, I am only sharing with him because he said that that you would have to accept it. No, they will put you in a position where you will have to make a choice, and then the citizens will cause those individual nations to return to the U.S. Currency until they clear up everything. Brutal honesty and not deceptive honesty is the key. Okay, and Mr. Ingram and this administration that has been ushered in by God shall get it right with all of the intellectual properties from the Royal Bahamas Police Force. Oh, Miss Michelle, let me please say happy birthday to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, because they are blaming her for everything. We are going to bring out the whole true fact.
All right. Thanks for calling, Bernice. I forgot today's the Queen's birthday. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if you're supposed to respond to anything that she said, or if you wish to respond to anything that she said, EJ.
Well, I remember the question that you asked. You asked about why, the original question you asked about why there's some hesitancy.
Yeah.
The hesitancy isn't going to last for long. And what I mean by that is that the generation that don't want to move, as we get older, and I'm going to say it's a little bit older than I am, And persons like J. Scott Sadler and those come up behind his generation, they're going to adopt it more and more. But remember where we're coming from. I remember when we were rolling out the telecommunications company I was with in like the Family Islands, and you'd go to people, you'd be talking to them about paying them, and persons wanted their money, their cash every day. And you have even taxi drivers. I remember one time we were trying to roll out an app where they could accept the credit cards, and some of the taxi drivers were looking at me like, when am I going to get my money? And you're like, oh, well, you're going to get it in about 2 or 3 days. And they're kind of like, I'm not going to be able to go home with my money every night, because they wanted to deal with cash. They wanted to deal with something physical that they're used to dealing with. Then they start to see the benefits of accepting credit card. And that even though the money was in their account right away, the credit card will transfer in 2 or 3 days. They realize the volume of business made up for the fact that they weren't taking cash home every night. And so that hesitancy to move from cash to let's say digital in this case with the credit cards, even though it was there, they adopted. And so as they start to see the benefit of cryptocurrency, people will start to move. So of course, persons like my mom and those are going to say, well, no, I want cash. But my generation will start to say, well, I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm willing to give it a try. Jay's generation is going to say, I grew up transferring money. Venmo or Vimo or whatever the app is, they're used to moving money around. They go to dinner, they split. They don't just pay for dinner electronically. They share money with each other electronically. But through these apps, they're returning back to the Caribbean after going to school in North America and Europe and saying, I don't want to deal with cash at all. Cash just it slows me down. I got to go to the ATM machine to get it. I have to be at the bank to get it. Why can't I just move it around? And so that as that generation get older and start to adopt it, you will see the hesitancy will go away reluctantly by my generation, the older ones. But as we start to move on and cross over into hopefully the pearly gates, that next generation that is coming behind us, they're going to see cash in all its forms as being slowing them down, and they're just going to move to digital directly.
Okay, I have a couple of comments. This one actually is coming from C. Allen Johnson. C. Allen Johnson says, yes, it is the only way for us to compete because we are late at this party. Now, do I say SIDS or SIDS?
Well, I'll say SIDS.
SIDS must individually and collectively build their own table. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's what I was saying before. I mean, we have to, but again, I was using table as an analogy, but I think what he is saying is that we need to come together and work with us among ourselves. And I certainly support that. But like I said, if you're negotiating, you have to negotiate somewhere. And virtually, the analogy that people use is the table. So that's what I mean when I'm talking about the negotiating table. But yes, we have to create markets, and we have to create products that allow us to be able to transact with each other. I mean, give you an example. I was in Barbados in February, and we went down to we spoke with the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley. And one of the issues that we talk about, because the Turks and Caicos right now is holding the chair for the CDB, for the Caribbean Development Bank. And so we were talking about the issues that are affecting Caribbean countries. And one of the biggest problems we have is transport between the Caribbean. To go from one Caribbean country to another Caribbean country, more often than not, we have to go north to come south. We have to go all the way up to North America and come back down.
Right.
And so just fixing those physical routes, those trade routes, will make it easier. We could fly directly. I could fly from Barbados to the Bahamas as easy as I could fly from Barbados to Miami. And so everything, trade routes, trading in goods and services, the way we interact with each other. If we build our own table, if we build and we become not dependent on North America and Europe and start to work together as a group, will make life far easier for all of us. And I think that's what he is saying. But also that doesn't stop the fact that we do need to come to some world table when we're negotiating things, even things like climate change. You know, that become a big issue, particularly with Prime Minister Mia Mottley, where we say that the bad behavior by North America affects us first in the forms of hurricanes. So when we come and talk about climate policies, we don't want to be talking about climate policies as a region when our region isn't doing the bad behavior that's costing the global warming. We want to be at a world table in that case to be able to negotiate. And so that's what I mean. That's saying that when we pull a chair up at the world table, when people are talking about climate policies globally, we don't want it to be the G8 or the G20. We want it to be the G200. You mean that we want to be 200 countries around the world. At the minimum, we want the Caribbean to be at that table. So that's what I mean when I say a table. But I do agree with C. Allen.
I have somebody who sent a message via WhatsApp. It says, ask your guest to explain how crypto works in terms of conversion, for example, from Canadian to Bahamian.
Well, the thing about it is that I've lost the feed, but with crypto, you don't need to convert from Canadian to Bahamian because the crypto is crypto.
It's a universal.
So you're not going to have Canadian crypto and a Bahamian crypto. You will be having your money in crypto, so maybe a Bitcoin or whatever. And so you could be able to use Bitcoin in the in Canada as well as you could use that same Bitcoin in the Bahamas. Only thing the Bahamas is the vendors, the sellers, as long as they're accepting Bitcoin, you'd be able to use your Bitcoin anywhere in the world.
So in other words, it's a universal currency.
Yes,
it doesn't depend on which country you're in. And that is one of the reasons why it is being hailed as the way of the future, because it breaks down all of the barriers that fiat now presents because you have Bahamian money and American money and Canadian money. Exactly.
So you don't have the exchange controls put in place, the cost of that. You don't have the currency valuation differences in valuation and everything that it brings.
So J. Scott Sadler is commenting. He said you'd have to go through an exchange or you can trade with someone else who accepts crypto, but exchanges allow you to convert your crypto into cash.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about. But the person, that's only if you're moving cash. If you want to get it back in cash. But you wouldn't have a Canadian Bitcoin and a Bahamas Bitcoin.
Right.
Now, if you want to move Canadian currency to the Bahamas and you want to do it in a roundabout way, I wouldn't recommend this. If you wanted to take Canadian and then convert Canadian into crypto and then crypto into Bahamian, but why would you do that if you could just convert Canadian into Bahamian right off the top?
Right.
But with crypto, if the Bahamas companies were accepting crypto and Canadian companies were accepting crypto, there would be no need to convert it.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We are chatting with the Honorable E.J. Saunders, who is the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, as well as the Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade for those islands. We're talking the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership. So stay with us. This is GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. We'll be back after these words from our sponsors. We got to pay our bills, y'all. Got to big up our sponsors. So stay with us, and then we will continue our conversation on the other side.
Understanding your microbiome, also known as your gut ecosystem, can change everything you thought you knew about nutrition, digestion, immunity, and metabolism. Keeping your gut ecosystem healthy and balanced is essential. Ultimate Microbiome by Longevity was specifically formulated to optimize this ecosystem. It provides the advanced support your gut needs through prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic supplementation. Our unique blend of probiotics includes Lactobacillus and Plantarum, healthy bacteria that can help prevent harmful bacteria from taking over your gut. Increasing your gut's population of beneficial bacteria creates a more balanced gut microbiome, which has been shown to aid in weight loss, skin health, sleep, mood, and may even help with seasonal allergies. Ultimate Microbiome also promotes the production of postbiotics. Postbiotics are key to help regulate your gastrointestinal health. To enhance digestion, Digizyme Multi-Enzyme Complex, a blend of 5 specific enzymes, has been added to Ultimate Microbiome. It can help break down food so your body can better absorb nutrients. Plus, we've added our proprietary I-26 hyperimmune egg powder to aid in the elimination of disease-causing gut bacteria and help your body balance its immune response. Ultimate Microbiome, the scientific, proprietary, and holistic approach to gut health that helps optimize your body's entire gut ecosystem. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
Welcome to Sunshine Auto, the hardest place on the planet for a rims, paint, and tires.
We are your auto superstore for rims, Lexani, Azaras, Trueform, Western, Lux, fuel, track life, tough, rough racing, velocity, mud, all-terrain, and low-profile tires, cars, homes, and commercial window tinting. At Sunshine Auto, we put God first and customer is king.
Less is love.
To stay healthy, it's crucial to make sure you get the nutrition you need every day. But it's difficult to get all your recommended vitamins and minerals from food alone. Even in the United States, 94% of people are deficient in at least one nutrient. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 by Longevity is a simple, convenient, and affordable way to help your body get the essential nutrients it needs. It's an advanced plant-driven multivitamin mineral complex that contains certified organic whole foods, trace minerals, and antioxidants. BTT 2.0 supports your body's natural defense system with a proprietary blend of energy-boosting and body-loving nutrients, plus prebiotics, probiotics, amino acids, and enzymes that support digestion. With an unusually high ORAC score of 8,000, you get even more antioxidants to help combat free radicals that can cause damage to your cells. But to get the most benefit and value from any multivitamin, your body must be able to break down the nutrients so you can fully absorb them. Otherwise, they'll just pass through your system without doing any good. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 was specially formulated with synergizing cofactors to ensure you get maximum nutrient absorption. Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0 is the easiest way to give your body the balance and complete daily vitamin mineral supplement it needs for optimal support of your overall health. To learn more, contact your Longevity associate.
This portion of GPS is brought to you by Tiki Bikini Hut at Junkanoo Beach. Great food, cool tropical drinks, and family fun in the sun. And it's EJ's microphone open. Okay, we're back here on GPS, Global Paradigm Shift on Global 99.5 FM. Michelle Malcolm along with the Honorable EJ Saunders, who is the Deputy Premier, Minister of Finance, Investment and Trade in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And you better use this opportunity to say hello to your family in the Bahamas, lest they cut you off.
I know, Michelle, and I tell you, every time you say it, I keep thinking that it sounds like I don't have family in the Bahamas. I was certainly holding a passport, payment passport until last year. And,
when you decided to run for office in the Turks and Caicos.
They said they couldn't hold both of them. So literally, I give it up 3 or 4 days ahead of the nomination day. But it's I spent a lot of time here, as you know, as a child. I visited often between 2016 and 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I spent a lot of time with Team Alive, particularly Abigail. I always enjoy my time here. I always enjoy seeing my friends and family, my Bahamian friends and family. And even though this trip is short, I hope I'll catch up with some of them the next time I'm back. Because of the pandemic, I wasn't able to get back during for those 2 years. I got back only once last November.
Mm-hmm.
But I do miss it, and I miss my friends. Catching up with them on this trip, or if I come back the next time. So I want to give a shout out to all of everyone in the Bahamas. It's good to be back, and I hope I can catch up with all of you all who I know. But thank you for having me on the show, Michelle.
Thanks for saving my butt, because my guest canceled on me late last night. Okay, we have a caller on the line. Welcome to GPS.
Yes, good afternoon, Michelle C. Allen Johnson, and to the Deputy Premier, Mr. Honorable E.J. Saunders.
Okay, gotcha.
Hello, C. Allen. How are you?
All right. Just want to make maybe 2 points. Michelle, on the remittance, in my studying of the movement or development of cryptocurrencies, I found that there's a remittance economy that actually has been developed around the use of crypto, for the mere fact that it is found that it streamlines the money process and makes it even cheaper. You know, remember how Haiti and other places that actually depends on remittances to be sent back? It is served as an intermediate currency that totally has begun to transform the way that is being done. The next point is that I know a lot of people say that cryptocurrency is anonymous. I kind of believe that is pseudo-anonymous, because as we begin to see as more exchanges adopted, you begin to leave a digital trail that people like the FBI and M5 and other people can decipher. And so, but it doesn't take away from it unless you actually are into some nefarious activities or about to do some illicit purchases. Now, for the final point is that for cryptocurrencies provides a unique opportunity for, like I said, for small island development state, because there are certain asset class within those particular jurisdiction. I know myself and others are examining one within the Bahamas, and I think I may have sent EJ a message, but I will be sending him one because we want to look at the TCI as one of those places. And but what it does is that, say for instance, like the tourism product or the hospitality product, they can actually, because it's an actually create a different asset class, they can actually use a class of development of a stable coin or something of that sort that is actually transferable between these hospitality and tourism-based type environment. And so there's a lot of use for the blockchain and this whole concept of crypto than just what we call ETH and BTC, Ethereum and Bitcoin. And so I think one of the things is education has to go within in our communities, so that we don't just rely on the sole purpose of believing that we have to buy it like on the stock exchange, when we could actually begin to look to create nascent uses for this new dispensation of information. And then finally, EJ, I'm going to call to you to find out that when you become premier, if you will consider voluntary surrender or I have to use force to annex you.
Oh, thanks for
Thank you
coming.
so much.
All right.
See, Ellen is trying to speak it into, right now, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
What are some of the policies that Caribbean leaders could put into place now in anticipation of the direction that money is heading in, this push towards cryptocurrencies, in order to make it easier for their people to be able to do business and to thrive in this new environment?
I think the way the regulator needs to approach it is basically saying, we are open to it and we're friendly towards crypto, instead of taking the opposite approach. Because you can have some regulators that just regulate it and kill it. Well, I don't think they'll be able to kill it, but certainly slow it down with the adoption. I think if regulators start to approach and say, we think this is the future of money, it is the future of money, how can we achieve it with the same, I wouldn't say regulatory control, because the idea is that we in cabinet, we talk about all the time about what mischief you're trying to fix with whatever you bring in the policy. So whatever they would find what their concerns are right now with movement of money, and say, how can we address those concerns while easing up the regulations to allow new forms of money to, in this case, digital money to become more acceptable. But I think that's the way the world is going. Regulators either going to have to fall in line or people are going to route around them. So it's best to approach it from a point of view of saying, we're going to go down this. We probably won't open the floodgates right away, but we want to start to see how we can adopt it and bring it in. And while being able to mitigate against the risk, but also achieve and address the issues concerns that we have with it, and start to learn it themselves and get an understanding. But I think approaching it from a way of embracing it, with a bit of control, to say how you can roll it in slowly to make sure, again, you mitigate against the risk. But don't approach it from a point of view of trying to stamp it out. And I would think that's what governments need to do, to start to say, this is the future, and how can we adopt it, but cautiously adopt it.
Do you think that could have an impact on future elections? Let me explain what I mean. Well, in the last election, everybody was anticipating that the young vote would have swayed the election in their favor, because they far outnumbered the older generation, but young people didn't turn out to vote. So going forward, would it be wise for a political party that seeks to govern a nation, would it be wise for them to be seen to embrace this new direction, this new technology, to appease to the younger voter who may or may not at that time come forward to vote?
The reason why I smile is because that touches on a number of things.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son who's 25.
Say what?
Who's 20? Yeah, I have a son who's 25.
Well, anyhow, we can talk after the show.
So I have a son who's 25. Gabriel is his name, and and Gabriel and I are constantly debating.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep telling Gabriel, you don't have enough life experience to be able to speak authoritatively on a particular subject that he wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why I'm giving that as an example is that young is not a skill set. It's a phase in life.
This is true.
And so the whole idea, and tell people this because, I mean, there was a time when I was the youngest person in the room, the youngest senior manager. And I think people treat being young as a life experience or as a skill set. So they go, we have to do this because of the young people say we need to do it. And I think, and I caution against that because I don't think being young, you necessarily have enough
it's not an
experience in
accomplishment
life to be able to look back and say, we can say for certain that this is the best outcome.
Right.
You know, young people are restless. I was telling them all the time, everyone's been young. If you were born and you get over a certain age, either you are young or you were young.
It's not some huge accomplishment to say that I'm a young person.
So my dad was restless when he was young.
Of course.
And I'm restless, and I was restless. And so my kids are restless, and their kids are going to be restless, and they're always going to be young people. And so I caution politicians against doing things just because someone who's young say to do it. You as a politician, you're supposed to put in the best policies for your country. And so it doesn't mean that good ideas can only come from young people. It doesn't mean that good ideas doesn't come from young people. I'm saying put in the policies in place that you think will best benefit your country today, but also knowing that tomorrow is supposed to be better than today, as today is supposed to be better than yesterday. And so you can't sacrifice the future for the now. And so any policies that you have to put in place, you say, how can this benefit my people today, but also make it easier for them in the future? But go ahead.
But the thing is, you have to have some degree of understanding of what the future is going to hold in order to make the best decision for all of your people. And I guess the question goes back to the willingness to embrace this new way, this new direction that the world is heading in. Because if you're stuck in listen, you preaching to the choir right now when it comes to this whole question of ageism, because what amazes me, and we all do, when I was younger, I used to do what older people do, so but like you said, it's not some huge accomplishment. It's just a phase of life. And we have to be careful to not throw experience out because it's an older person bringing it to the table. That being said, though, the older person has to be open to learning new things and embracing new technologies, because that is the direction that the world is going in. Can we have a happy marriage between the two? And is it necessary to have a happy marriage if you're looking to be a politician with a shelf life longer than 5 years?
No, I think you're correct. I think it needs to have a happy marriage, but I'm going to give you another example. There was a point in time when I was the CEO for Digicel, and I was the youngest CEO at Canto. Canto is the Caribbean Association of National Telecommunications Organization. And so when I walk into the room, I was a baby. I was maybe at the time in my late 30s, as a matter of fact. I was thinking at the point in time when I became a director of Canto, I was in my late 30s. And two of the directors was a guy named, as you would know, Leon Williams, who was with the telco at the time, and Dirk Curry, who was from Telesur in Suriname. And they were one of the oldest. I mean, Leon was actually a director on the board, and Dirk at the time was chairman of Canto. And one of the things that I really liked about them is that even though they were older than I was, they got it. They got it. And so the happy marriage was that I was the young person on the board, basically had all the young ideas and say, oh, we want to do this. But someone needed to adopt it. Someone who was the mature person in the room. In that case, it was Dirk, who was chairman of the board, and Leon, who was on the board. They got it. And they were the ones who were signing off and being able to, particularly in this case of CSR, corporate social responsibility type issues, and being able to give back and do things for the younger generation. They were the CEOs of their companies, and they could write the check. And that's the reason why we've had Canto meetings and Canto AGMs and our conference a lot in the Bahamas and in Suriname, because Leon was chairman, he was the CEO for Telco, and Dirk was the CEO of Telesur. And when Canto was looking for a host country, more often than not, they put their hands up and they would write the check because they got it. And so the happy marriage for them was that for me coming in with these young ideas, but I still needed them to provide a bit of maturity and tune down my enthusiasm, but also come up with the paycheck. And so that's where the happy marriage comes in, because the young people will always see what's coming around the future curve. Because like I said, I come out of tech, but I don't know what's coming around the curve in social media, because I want to spend all my day in artificial intelligence. But social media is the newer thing than AI. So they would know where the world is going in terms of the future of communications. But they still need a bit of maturity in the room to tune down their enthusiasm a bit, ask certain questions that they may not be asking. They may be drinking their own Kool-Aid, as they would say. And so you need a mature person in the room who's been around for a while to ask the questions. And that person is more than likely to be the person writing the checks. And so yes, there should be a happy medium. So I would say cautious against just shutting the young people out, but also don't overdo it by thinking that let's hand over all the range to them, and they may not have the experience. But we do need to work together with I don't want to say the elders, because I don't think I'm there yet, because I'm still under 50.
Right.
But we also need to work together with those in my generation, those who came before, and those who are coming next.
Are we moving towards a cashless society where, like it or not, ready or not, here we come? You're going to have to embrace this new money, this new way of spending. And if so, what are your thoughts on the time frame before we are completely free of fiat? Or do you think that will never happen?
It will happen. And when I said happen, it won't be 100% of the world only dealing with digital.
Right.
I mean, the people who will be dealing with cash will be the unbanked. There will always be a few 100 million persons around the world who are unbanked, and they're going to deal in cash. The underground, the black markets will deal with cash. But upper middle class and upper class will certainly move away from dealing with money in a physical form. And I think a lot of people are there right now. I have friends who told me that they don't write checks anymore at all. And so, like, why would you write a check? That he uses his credit card and debit cards and everything. And when we start to adopt more of the technologies that they have in North America and Europe, you would just go and tap. I mean, I came through Nassau, through Miami yesterday, and I walked into to a store to buy some magazines, and I realized, oh my goodness, I didn't get any cash. Just what happens that as a politician, you're constantly spending money, and so I pulled out my RBC debit card, and the person said in the store in the United States, tap right here, and I'm like, I can't. It's like, you can't tap. Like, no, I can't. Like, try it. I'm certain you can. And I'm looking at, no, I can't tap it. I need to swipe it. And he is like looking at me like, and I'm like pointing to like, I think that thing right there is for the swipe. And he's like, okay, then try. Like he would not have seen anyone swipe a card for a long time.
Wow.
And just to go back to, I was in London in November, and there were times when there were stores that could not take a swipe card. It had to take a chip card. Like, they just didn't take a swipe card at all. And so as we adopt more of the technology that are out there where we can tap our card, but even when you put your wallet on your phone and you can tap your phone, you can tap your smart watch, you can walk through holding your bags like this and wave your watch across the reader and pay for it. You know, Amazon has stores now that no one is in the store, and that you basically log into the store with your Amazon account, and you're pulling stuff from the store shelves, and it's recognizing what you're pulling from it and putting into your recyclable bag and everything. And it's charging your Amazon account, and you walk out. So you don't even have to swipe anything. You just log into your Amazon account and recognize that you're in the store, using other technologies to recognize that your phone is in the store, and you're pulling items from it. You don't have to tap at all. And so as you do that, and you're ordering food, and Uber's picking you up, and you don't have to pay for the car that you're riding in, and because your driver and your taxi doesn't charge you, and the food gets delivered to your door, and you order stuff from Amazon, it's drop shipped to in front of your door. Why would you need cash? And so we're already moving to a world where cash is going to become irrelevant. But like I said, the unbanked who can't do that will still need to use cash, and those who are using it for nefarious reasons. But we will find that digital cash becomes far more easier to use, more user-friendly, because you could design the user experience around it, far more accessible and far cheaper to use.
Sounds a lot to me like we're heading towards.
Let me guess.
Huh?
I know what you're thinking.
I'm not. I wasn't going to say what you think I was going to say, but I might as well say it. But when we were growing up, remember, here's George Jetson.
Yes.
So a lot of what they did in that cartoon, it's like we heading there now, or they're already.
No, so some parts of the world we are. I mean, you'd be surprised how slow governments are towards moving it. But no, but we're there already. You can certainly go through a month of your life without having to use cash. And I think if you really try to do it very, very tight, and if you make a concerted effort to do it, you could probably go through a year without having to use cash at all. Like I said, there's stores, Whole Foods. You can go into it and not use cash. Well, all stores you could go into the United States and not use cash by being like really without even having to take out your credit card. But you can move around the United States easy without having to touch cash.
Now, I wasn't going to go there, but you did remind me of where this could head in terms of. Well, they already have technology in place where they are tying it to your medical records and all this kind of stuff, but that's another show. I want to read this comment from J. Scott Sadler. Jay says, going completely cashless isn't a necessity. There could also be convertible gold-backed stable coins that you could convert to physical gold coins, for example. Fiat currency used to be exchangeable for gold, this is true, before the gold standard was eliminated. So gold could be useful for pricing goods since Bitcoin is so volatile. They could work together to eliminate the need for centrally controlled currencies. How do you respond to Jay's comment?
Well, Jay is pro-digital currency. I mean, but he's correct. I mean, but the point I'm making is that I think this is what you'd ask. Is cash going to go away? For a portion of society, cash will go away. While it will be possible to convert in a digital currency world, convert that digital currency into physical money. You're not going to want to carry around it. I mean, so even if you could convert into gold coins carry weight. They have a certain amount of weight with them. I mean, give you another quick story. I used to travel a lot when I was in the private sector, and every time I go through security, I would take the change that happened to accumulate in my pockets and drop it into my backpack. And one day I went to security and they stopped me. The alarm was going off like crazy. They zip open my backpack, and they said, "What happened? Did you just knocked off a casino in Vegas?" And when I looked at it, it was probably close to 10 pounds of coins in my bag that had accumulated over time. And so money has weight. Physical coins carry weight. And so while you can convert it, like I said, just dealing with it creates friction. It creates cost of dealing with it. And so most people aren't going to convert it. They're not going to go from digital to physical. They're going to just stay in the digital world because it's far too easy to walk in and do this. Like I said, if you're catching Uber to pick you up and drop you off, why are you going to pay? Why are you going to take out cash to pay a taxi? If you can walk into the store of the future, which Amazon is already trialing, and you don't even have to deal with a cashier. When you log in, you wave your Amazon account, it logs you in, and it's scanning the goods, and you walk out. Why are you going to deal with cash? And again, cash creates friction, and it creates cost.
Well, the next step, I guess, would be you could always lose your card. Why not just put a chip on a part of your body? That
fingerprint. Because use your fingerprint. Biometrics.
Yeah. It's interesting to see where this is going to go. I do believe, anyway, that's another show. We only got 6 minutes left, so I'm not going to open that can of worms right now. We're not going to go down that road today. But know that this, I believe, is the beginning of what's to come as it relates to your freedom and ability to move about and travel the world and participate in business and all that kind of stuff. I agree. We are going to move away from cash because it's going to be, they'll say it's a lot safer and everything that EJ just described. And then we're going to move, in my humble opinion, from that to something else that they're going to say, because, well, you could lose your card or somebody could steal your card. So why not just implant this thing? But anyway, that's another show.
But Michelle, one time I went to the United States a couple of years ago, and they said to me, "Are you bringing in any cash on you?" And they said, "How much cash do you have on you?" And I went like $50-$60. And the guy looked at me, the immigration officer looked at me like $50-$60, like almost like to say, "How can you be coming into the United States with no money on you? What are you going to do to cover your costs?" And I'm saying, like, I've got credit cards, I've got debit cards, I've got access to cash. But you can see when they were used to people coming and bringing in $5,000, $6,000 in cash, to know that you weren't gonna, come into the United States and fall on the social system and not want to leave because you can't cover your costs.
Right.
That's why they have this question on the form saying, are you bringing more than $10,000 worth of cash into the country? No one deals with $10,000 worth of cash in it unless you're doing it for nefarious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have access to $10,000 worth of cash.
Right.
And so all of those are dated now. Like,
so they're gonna have to change the way they ask that question then.
Well, I'm telling you, I literally walked into the United States yesterday, and I probably had, because I was in London in November, probably $50-$60 in pounds and $15 in US currency, and move around. And so, but 20 years ago, if I came into the United States with $15, they would think that I'm trying to sneak into the United States and claim asylum. Now today, why do I need more than that? Everything that I do, I just swipe. And so, like I said, I'm not give it another 15 years, and that $50 in pounds isn't going to even be in my wallet anymore. My wallet is going to be my Apple wallet or my Samsung wallet or something like that.
Interesting. All right, EJ, we are running out of time, so I'm going to give you 1 minute to give us your final thoughts on this whole question of the future of money and its impact on Caribbean leadership.
I would say that the future of money is digital, and encourage Caribbean leaders, particularly like myself, who sits in the Ministry of Finance, to get your regulators to start to look into it and start to embrace it. But I don't want to change your question, because I wanted to at least say again a shout out to all my friends and family in the Bahamas. I hope you don't mind me saying that, Michelle. It's been 2 years. I haven't had a chance to catch up with them, and I was looking forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you again. And thank you for everyone who supported me in the party in the election and gave me all the best wishes from my family and friends here in the Bahamas. It was really appreciated. It doesn't mean that I've forgotten you all, and I'm certainly, whenever I take vacation, I'll come and visit, and then see if we could catch up. But I'm hoping that I'm going to be here again in the next in a few more days. So if ever you see me, a friend of mine, a cousin of mine saw me walking today, and she messaged me, say, hey, there was that you walking down Bay Street. So if you do know me and you see me, stop and say hi. I'd love to catch up. So thank you very much.
And next time he comes in, he'll probably have to do it the proper way, because he seems to forget now that he's the deputy leader of a whole country. So yeah, you got to make sure that
I can't walk down Bay Street anymore.
No, you can't be doing them kind of things. You ain't just EJ no more. So thank you so much, EJ, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. And always can expect you to bring in vast amounts of knowledge that, can benefit us all. So kudos to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, guys, it's my time. I am Michelle Malcolm. It's been a pleasure. Tomorrow is an open line Friday, TGIF. You know what that means. It's you being my co-host, where we talk about anything you want to talk about. We talk about the week that was. So prepare your questions. Get ready. Let's have some good conversation. Thank you, Jay. Jay says, great show. Thank you so much for tuning in and for chiming in as well, Jay Scott Sadler. All right, that's it. My time is gone. I'm Michelle Malcolm. Thanks so much for being a part of the show today. And I'll see you guys, same place, same time tomorrow. Have a good one.
Global 99.5 FM reminds our listeners that the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the host and guests and not necessarily the opinions of the owners of Global Communications Network and the operators of this radio station.
This is 99.5 Global FM, your number one source for R&B